Welcome in. This is your Odds Checker betting preview for this week's Pebble Beach Pro-Am. I'm Rick Gehman, that right there, Geoff Fienberg. Geoff, here we go. At it again, another California course rotation, one that we see every single year on the schedule.
Yeah, and I guess just sort of like the one we just had a couple weeks ago, it's a history of kind of just, rewarding long shots. It seems like either in front of 20 to 1 or above 150 to 1 are the lanes at recent Pebble Beach history.
Yeah, it's like a barbell, right? You want like the extreme favorites or the extreme long shots. We were just talking about it. Ted Potter Jr., when he outdueled DJ on that Sunday a couple years ago, was a few hundred to 1, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Nick Taylor. I'm sure I'm forgetting some other ones here. I was lucky enough last year, Rick, to be around my computer when DJ withdrew. So I was one of those people that got that peak burger number with the quick fat thumbs, which usually cost me when guys withdrew and I felt like you have to rush bets. But no one of real status needing to worry about the withdrawals this year. The field is just all-time lows.
Yeah, it certainly is. Let's get into the field. The favorite, Patrick Cantlay, 8 to 1 is the best number available on the grid. Caesars and Bet365 offering that for Cantlay, and Daniel Berger at 14 to 1. The way it's shaping up, Geoff, it's kind of a 1A, 1B situation. Cantlay is your favorite, Berger there as well. We'll get into some other names, but these two are clearly standing at the top of a lot of betting boards. Is there a bet to be made? Because this is important. If you make a bet here, it's going to dictate what you do later on your card.
Yeah, and as we sort of said, I mean, historically, the strategy would be to probably pick one of these guys or two of them and just pick the super bombs at the top. But I like building cards way too much, Rick. So that's not the strategy for me. I don't hate the Berger number per se. If forced to pick between the two, and off a 250 to 1 Swafford victory, an 80 to 1 Luke List victory at a big boy pants party at Torrey Pines, as I feel like it's your terminology, you're out there in Vegas, so it's just like a roulette spin where nobody hits and we're just waiting for the dealer to just swipe all our chips off the table and say, try again next week, boys. I'm not playing the top, but I'm always afraid of the whole board getting wiped.
Yeah, the Berger one, you'll certainly want to shop. 10 to 1 at DraftKings, 12 at FanDuel, but the best number available, Caesar Sportsbook at 14 to 1 and Bet365. The next tier of golfers is Will Zalatoris, Jason Day, Jordan Spieth, hanging around that 18 to 20 range. This is where you start to get into numbers that I'd kind of generally like to be in, but I still feel they might be too short for these guys, Geoff. What do you think?
Yeah, probably still too short for my tastes, although I'm one of those people who was on Will at the Amex around 50 to 1, caught a number on him last week, and it's again slashed in half, so it's so tempting to sort of stay on the wheel, as I'm sure some Maverick McNeely backers will probably be tempted to do, but I'm not pulling any of these triggers. I will say Spieth, the current form seems horrible, but this isn't, how do you put this? He's got comfort zone tracks, and the Masters is where he'd have to beat Jon Rahm and Patrick Cantlay and every other great world, Morikawa and Hovland in one shot. Wouldn't really have to do that here. It's a total comfort zone track. I would argue the 20 to 1 on Spieth is quite a fair number, but it's one I don't see myself investing in.
We're going to learn a lot about Jordan Spieth this week and recent form versus kind of course history as he prepares for Augusta National, which on Thursday, when this thing tees off, will be 63 days away. So this is an important stretch for Jordan Spieth.
You would probably know this better than I. Even when he was at his sort of lowest, it feels like the Masters, Pebble, a Texas track here or there, at his comfort courses, he always played well, be it just teasing you with a great first round or something like that. So
right.
You're right. It is like when Phil didn't play well at Phoenix, I always felt like that was a telltale sign for the year ahead. in some respects as he was starting his downward trajectory, before he peaked again clearly last year. So you're not wrong that I will read a lot into this week's results from Spieth if they're bad. If they're good, we'll just be like, what can we take from it? It's his ultimate comfort zone track. That's the anomaly of all of this, Rick. We'll pick whatever side of it we want.
That's exactly right. All right, this next tier, this is probably where most are trying to start their cards. It's Justin Rose, Maverick McNeely at 28-1. It's Cameron Tringale, Seamus Power at 30. And then Matt Fitzpatrick, who by most resumes, most official World Golf rankings, might be one of the better guys here. 28-1 at DraftKings, but 40-1 at Caesars. Is there a wager to be made here, Geoff?
So I have bet Matthew Fitzpatrick. I thought about it for most of the day, discussed it earlier. It kind of even took me by surprise to see him 33-1s, and then I quickly saw it jump up to 40-1. It's a number I invested in kind of blindly to sort of the surface reasons that you give. Also, from a distance, it feels like a layout that should suit Fitzpatrick, although history doesn't really indicate that. He did have a nice US Open here. But yeah, I bet on this number. I will tell you, I am having a McNeely Seamus Power conversation. I've never bet Tringale, so that's not like a well I'm going into, although off the Luke List win, I'm sure Tringale backers can feel emboldened to keep giving her, but 30-1, that's not for me. McNeely clearly playing at probably has the most confidence he's ever had in his career, now going to a course that we all agree his game kind of suits perfectly, and he's acknowledged that he loves. Well, Seamus Power, you almost have to we say it each week, you got to double take the stats and the finishes because they seem unfathomable. They seem something Xander Schauffele like, in many ways, just consistently running off great finishes. If you bet him at 33-1 or something at the Amex, how do you not kind of go back to Seamus here?
This range, Rose, McNeely, Tringale, Power, Fitzpatrick, I have stared at all day long, trying to figure out what in the world I'm going to do with it. It's hard to argue with anything about Maverick McNeely at 28-1. It's hard to argue anything about Seamus Power at 30. Those are guys I'm very bullish on moving forward. I'm probably more bullish on Cameron Tringale than you are, and I might be a sucker for the moment. I followed him around on Saturday, which was the final round. No, that weird wave that he does. Thank God I avoided that. It's like Medusa looking you in the eye. But he looked John Rahm in the eye, beat him by a stroke in the final rounds. He never blinked. I mean, I was pretty impressed with what I saw, but I'll be the sucker that bets the guy for his first career victory at 30-1 and be surprised when he doesn't win it.
Yeah, no, I don't. Hey, I'm just one of those guys. I bet my own group of guys that never win. And I don't need to get on board with someone else's at 30, I guess. But there's so many things pointing to Tringale finally getting over that hump. And yeah, absolutely. Rose striking it like vintage Rose form. So that 28-1 also seems fair. A lot of people who I'm already talking to have made that bet. You'll have to twist my arm a little harder. I am like you, Rick, tempted for guys who've never won.
Yeah, exactly right. All right, it starts to open up a little bit after this. Kisner, Palmer in the 50s, Streelman, who, if this was just betting on who'd win the Pro-Am, that's a great number right there. I assume he's going to be back with Larry Fitz. Lonzo Griffin had the round of the day on Sunday, and he is at 55-1 at DraftKings, 33-1 at some other places. So there might be some built-in value there. But this is where things start to open up, Geoff, and you can find those guys that are either course guys or guys that you've been betting frequently. What do you see out of this next tier here?
Yeah, so again, a lot of attractive options that I know will be part of my card. Lanto Griffin is a guy I'm willing to believe that great Sunday at Torrey Pines can translate. That's a lane that I'm looking at in him, 55-1. I like a lot. Kisner, I thought about long and hard, Rick. And it's one of those things when, the odds come out and you try to find the guys that you like and you do all your models, what have you, or just, stare at the grids and try to find your best number, you get a bigger, you cut down a list and you try to whittle it down to a list of names that makes sense, that works with, how you want to bet. And you're always trying to find reasons to cross names off. And I really want to bet Kisner. But Kevin Kisner winning in California, something that just doesn't suit well with me, despite it being the sort of perfect Kevin Kisner, 3-track layout. So that's one I am quite torn on, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, Kisner on paper, I think, is better for this event, but it hasn't really shown up in the results. So it is weird. As we go further, I'll just point out, Geoff, a couple of discrepancies because it's wide open now. Minwoo Lee, 50-1 in some places, 80-1 in others. Michael Thompson, 80-1 or 55-1. Aaron Rai, another guy who played well last week, 80-1 or 50-1. Books are kind of all over the place as we get to that other end of the barbell that we were referring to, Geoff. Are you seeing a number that's worth grabbing?
Oh, so you're absolutely right. And we've spoken about this, I think, at the Amex. In these tournaments that have these lesser cachet, I think it's harder for the books, to put some guys out there. Even a guy like Aaron Rai, who got a lot of TV time on the weekend, Rick, I'm seeing at a 50 and a 90 using 90. That odds checker grid. A player like Mito Pereira, who a lot of people in the space and probably watching this are very familiar with. I'm seeing it from 40 to 66. So it is all over the place. I am going back to a couple guys in this area who I did bet at the Amex. Russell Knox, 80-1. And I caught a Tom Hoagie, 75-1 earlier today. It's dropping, but that's a wagon. I've been riding that Hoagie wagon, and a lot of 3-course rotation, little plot them out there, use your approach game. So I can't quit Hoagie just yet.
Yeah, if I woke up Monday morning and was told that Tom Hoagie won the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am, I'd be like, yeah, that's about right. That feels right. Feels like an event he could win, which doesn't make any sense, but it feels like it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I can't quit the guy, but this is a range with a lot of bodies I could be, make a case for, I guess. I don't know how much I'd be tucked into, but as you mentioned, Thompson, Glover, Kirk, there's just a whole set of guys that, the way this tournament has worked out, I wouldn't have an issue betting one bit. Even Rye, Putnam. I know I'm just naming the list here, but that sort of shows that I guess still have a lot of decisions to be made. And I will say, as we joked about off the top with sort of the super front and the really big bombs hitting, I'm taking on the Pebble Beach dead zone, I guess, but I don't care. I'm not, I can't look at Pebble Beach history and be like, oh, well, there, can't bet the guys 30-100. Well, that's where I bet, and that's where I'm going to keep betting.
Yeah, I love that. I'll give you one guy. You'll love the minutia of this, Geoff. Brandon Harkins won on the Corn Ferry last week, which would normally have been finish on Sunday, sprint to the next place that you have to go, do all your winter obligations, all that stuff. That event ended on Wednesday. So he's had time to reset, to get to the courses, do his homework. He's got 2 top 25s in his 2 starts at Pebble Beach. He's not going to win this thing. He's 150-1, but that outright number drives your top 5, your top 10, all that good stuff. There's a weird situation we only get presented with the timing of this 3 weeks of the Corn Ferry Tour.
Yeah, that is quite awkward. And shout out, I had that other guy, Marty Dow, or I guess that's what they call him on American networks. I think he hit the ball OB twice in that playoff, and we got that Outlaw Tour-esque camera they set up for that playoff. So shout out to the Corn Ferry. Yeah, I mean, you're making a lot of good points there, Rick. North of 100, looking for triple digits. Pendrith 150, Neesmith, who you think there's a lot of guys who this can suit quite well, but Neesmith is one that kind of popped for me. And I always got love in California for Pat Perez. I don't know if I'd pull that trigger. Sahith Tagala's 110. Yeah. Now I'm just naming names. I don't like the super bombs as much as I did at the Amex. I really do like more of that 50 to 80 I think, is kind of what's calling me.
I agree with you. The 3 courses are still more random than normal, but there's been a lot of sticky history around this place. And I think these 3 courses are more similar than the 3 that we get in La Quinta. So I draw lines at, I was happy to bet the guys at 200 and 300 to 1 2 weeks ago. I'm drawing a couple of lines a little bit earlier this time around. I'll probably have like 5 guys and I'll go to battle with those 5.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. But as you said, it's one of those tournaments where, there's so many guys you could tell me won, and I'd be like, okay, that makes sense, even if they're 100 plus odds right now.
Yeah, when you play the game, like at the end of the year, who won this event, who won that event, this is generally one of the harder ones to get. Like when Nick Taylor went wire to wire, I think he did to win this. Like that was out of my memory 3 days later. So one of those weeks. Geoff Fienberg is available on Twitter at gfienberg17. You can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been your odds checker betting preview for this week's Pebble Beach Pro-Am. Good luck.